3, 2, 1, go!
Alright, so heading into this game, things start out pretty well. I am able to get the heads on the coin flip, which means that, hey, I'll be able to get my evolutions in play as soon as possible. But, as so often happens, you start an engine piece instead of your main attacker. And in particular, this is a really rough start for this deck because you desperately need to get Magcargos in play. So having a Slugma up against a Volcarona V, which can, put 280 damage down turn 1 pretty easily. Well, I know it's not long for this world, and with only a Ditto Prism Star, a Snubbull, and an Oranguru on board behind it, things are not looking good for having my engine established and ready to run, at least right away. My opponent, however, has no issue setting up their engine. They've got the beautiful Volcanion EX in play. They've got a Vulpix, which is going to turn into a Ninetales soon. But apparently they just didn't have that many fire energies to discard on turn 1 because my Slugma actually survives, which ends up making all the difference in the world. So thanks to the whip on that KO, I am able to use the plentiful Ball Surge that I had in hand to better establish my board, and I'm even able to hit a Hypnotoxic Laser off of the top of the Instruct, which actually matters because that passive damage, as you will see throughout the course of the game, well, it helps close out KOs quite a bit, which I really need to do because Volcarona V has absolutely no issue putting the damage on board for a KO every turn from this point on. Fiery Flints, Battle Compressors, Volcanion, Ninetales, you name it. Zebstrika coming right after that. My opponent will not have any problem taking a KO every turn. So what I need to do is try and make as short work of this thing as I can. Now, thankfully, because of the 1 energy I dumped before, Raihan is live. I am able to get myself an Ultra Ball, and the first of my Granbulls can come down. And in fact, because of the Muscle Band that I put on before and that Hypnotoxic Laser, I'm actually able to take a pretty clean KO on the first Volcarona V. So as long as I can do that 2 more times, that's pretty much it. Or if I can get a lucky Guzma, maybe my opponent somehow whiffs the KO 1 turn, then I can pick up the Dedenne or even the Volcanion if necessary in order to close the game out. But it's not the way it's going to go. I am going to end up having to go through all 3 of these Volcarona V. For better or for worse, my opponent, they have 1 attacker in this deck. To the best of my knowledge, this deck doesn't even actually play Welder, so Volcanion won't end up being an option either. But they have everything they need. They've got a follow-up ready to go. Their engine is running smoothly, and I'm kind of on the ropes already because I don't have my engine established at all. I have 0 Magcargo. I could, in theory, have one ready to go now thanks to the Ditto Prism Star and the 1 Slugma there, but I'm still not really set. You want to have access to 2 Instructs and 2 Smooth-Overs every turn. That's the ideal situation, because that pretty much guarantees that you'll have your hand emptied every time. But, in this particular case, the best that I'm able to do is get myself set up for next turn. I go for the big all out, and, at the very least now, I don't need to hit the combo next turn, because thanks to the Muscle Band, I actually can take them out with 30 points of damage. And, for the most part, I'm sitting pretty comfy. If I'm not able to follow up this next turn with an attack, though, that's a different story. Because to get all the different pieces that I would need in play on the following turn, or, whiffing the follow-up Snubbull, that will pretty much spell the end of the game for me. And, it's a big easy KO for my opponent there. But, stacking that Raihan on top was the right call because it gets me the follow-up energy without having to sweat that too much. And now the Magcargo is able to grab me the Snubbull that I very desperately need. And the Energy Recycler is a nice hit as well because I can get back a nice 3 Fairy Energy. So again, I maybe don't have to worry about those too much. And I can go for the very cheeky 30 damage all out to close out that Volcarona V. So in theory, if I hit a laser, for example, and I hit my combo again, that's it. But my opponent is about to start playing things a lot more intelligently. So they realize that I'm extremely dependent on my engine here, and that if I, continue to hit all the pieces every turn, I'm going to close this out. So they see that I only have the one Magikarp in play. They take advantage of that Ninetales and they gust it up to put me in a very awkward spot. Without Magikarp to guarantee my follow-up here, I'm in danger. And, having to pitch a rescue stretcher earlier on means that I'm not really going to be able to get this set up again either. So what I'm going to have to hope now is that the cards I draw into can be eliminated on their own. So in the case of the nest balls, for example, even though I have no valid targets, I can still play those down in order to empty my hand. And in this particular case, I do it so that, I can at least guarantee myself a decent all out. I do make a risky move and go for the instruct, but it ended up paying off because I could hit the laser, which is going to be doing a nice 30 damage. I do get the sleep there as well. And I do have the follow-up laser in case this thing wakes up, and I have an Apricorn Maker that I can play for nothing too. Now, my opponent bounced the Stadium, which was not great. I was really counting on that damage to tick up, just in case, for example, they whiff the KO here. What my opponent is going to do instead is actually make me waste time. So they're going to go for that 9 Temptations and force up an Oranguru, which I cannot evacuate at the moment without access to, I think, the one switch that I play in the deck, or the 1 or 2 off Guzmas. So I'm in pretty rough shape right now, but the one advantage I have is that my opponent does not have the attack this turn, right? They're even attaching the energy manually because they know they might need to retreat next turn and get that Volcarona out of danger. Now, I'm forced to make a pretty awkward play here as well. I don't like having to attach the basic fairy energy to Oranguru, but I need to be prepared for the fact that they might gust that one up as well, and just make pretty short work of me, right? I mean, if I have to get 3 energies on it and attack with Psychic, I will do it. But I also need to just shore up my defense here, so I'm going for the Pal Pad to get back those Rhyhons, and if I can see a Rhyhon off the top, that's pretty good because assuming I don't flip sleep on the first Hypnotoxic Laser, then I can actually play the second one down, have my follow-up attack, and probably close things out. But now my opponent decides to take the more direct route and blow up the one Granbull that I had in play, which puts me in a really awkward spot because, I managed to hit the sleep heads, which is fine, but not that great, because I'm actually going to whiff the 160 damage this turn. And looking at what I have in hand, well, there's not much I can do to get rid of that last laser. So, the best I'm able to do here is set up the Verbank, get a follow-up Snubbull just in case I have to use its Make a Mess attack and ditch that final Hypnotoxic Laser, and, just go for a very sad 30 damage here. But thanks to the Verbank, it does tick up to 150, which means that, if my opponent had, woken up, for example, they would have had to switch out and go into the other Volcarona. But because they stayed asleep now, they have to dig for a switching out. Now, I did Field Blower off the one Air Balloon, and I believe in the course of just milling through their deck in order to dump a ton of fire energies, they got rid of the other one, which I do see in the discard there. So as long as they don't have a switch or an escape rope hiding somewhere, I basically just have to chill. Because at the end of their turn, if they don't switch out the Volcarona V, it ticks up to 180, and then going into my turn, obviously, it's pretty easy to go for the all-out to close out the remaining 30. I could even do nothing because the poison damage is going to take it out regardless. Now, in the course of digging through the deck for a switching out, my opponent is going to find a giant hearth, so going for that easy poison damage, it's not really going to work out. But, on the plus side, what my opponent did in trying to burn through their deck there, and I presume dig for the remaining switching out, is they actually end up decking themselves out in a second, basically meaning that, even if I don't have the KO for whatever reason, even if I can't get the follow-up Verbank to close out that remaining damage, it's not really going to matter because you can't play if you can't draw. So, you know, while I definitely thought my goose was cooked and I had given my opponent the well played, I think more than once in that final turn, turns out I actually take this one. Okay, well, it is a little awkward to win on a coin flip, but in the words of literally every TCG player on YouTube, we take those. And to be fair, this is precisely why I included Hypnotoxic Laser and Burbank City Gym. Back in its heyday, Granbull could rely on Shrine of Punishment to tick up free damage against enemy GXs, but without any similar specific anti-V countermeasures, this little combo will have to do. The rest of the list is pretty intact from Granbull's heyday in the Sun and Moon era. The Magcargo and Oranguru engine ensure that you can at least guarantee one particular card every turn, and pairing that with new techs like Peony and Raihan give you additional outs to energies, key items, or evolutions as required. Apricorn Maker is there to get your ball search, and yes, I know that ball guy is a thing, but I was really feeling the nostalgia here, so I went for the OG supporter. And you know, all in all, it's a fun deck, and it's really good for learning proper sequencing. It is a bit more high maintenance compared to your usual rogue deck fare, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And you will definitely enjoy it once you figure it out. But anyway, that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment chastising me for dropping the ball on Ball Guy, and sub if you haven't already. And as for me, I'll catch you all next time, and until then, take it easy.